Well, hello there. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Family Matters. My name is Purity Museo, and tonight we talk about youth and technology. We will just want to have a look and explore how parents and guardians could be helped to navigate this world of digital, even as they continue to raise their kids and young ones. And to help us with that particular discussion, we have a team of experts. In studio, we have two gentlemen. One is called Elmer Brigham. He's a counseling psychologist. Then we have Richard Muthua, who is an IT expert. Then we also have two ladies, and one of them is a life transformation coach. We also have a teacher in studio. We will be getting to understand who is to blame and who is to play what role when it comes to raising children in this digital era. But just before we have our discussion going on, we want to have a look at some guidelines set by the Communication Authority on how to protect children from the online protection of children. And first, let's just have a look at what the law says regarding protection of children when it comes to use of the internet. And Article 29 D of the Kenyan Constitution states that every person has the right to freedom and security, which includes the right not to be subjected to torture in any manner. So we are talking about freedom and at the same time security. How do we ensure that we allow our children the freedom to use the internet, but then how do we secure them from the harmful effect? Then the Article 46C on consumer protection. We have consumers have the right to the protection of their health, safety, and economic interest. Of course, here, this section explores some of the harmful effects that wrong use of internet may subject our children to. Let's have a look at the next page. Yes, and it's talking about types of online crimes. Remember, internet is really used as a source of information and education. It is just like another big platform that offers information and education. It has some negative impacts, and some of them include solicitation of a minor, and this one in particular involves one person or someone interacting with a minor, and then they request to physically meet these children with intention, of course not good intentions, but intention of, for example, exploiting them sexually, engaging them or involving them into doing some harmful activities such as crimes and so forth. Then we have cyberbullying. This is where a child or a teen uses internet to, let's say, blackmail, tease, and even bully other teens, and this could also be transformed or transferred from the internet to the physical connection. We have identity theft and online fraud as another type of an online crime, and of course we are very familiar with the Facebook, Instagram hacking cases, and of course this happens when someone sends you a virus and they are able to use your identity just to maybe solicit some help from other people in your name. Of course, it's another harmful online crime. And then we have child pornography. Internet has really exposed young people to some of this pornographic content, such as films and photography. And these are some of the things that the Communications Authority is saying that need to be addressed as far as child online protection is concerned. Then let's cross over to the next page. We have internet addiction. You know, there are, of course, you start using the internet and then you end up being addicted. So what are the stages for addiction? We have curiosity, and this is where someone or a child is very curious. You want to visit one page or one blog, one Facebook page to another, and then we have substitute satisfaction. This is where now you only find satisfaction on using internet. Like, you will not be at ease and at peace if you've not visited there. One of these pages, either Facebook or Instagram. Then we have escape from the real world. There are people who completely, and children who completely depend on the internet for any source of information. They can never rely on themselves anymore. And then lastly, we have, let's maybe go to the last page. And the last page, as we have a look at it, it's signs of addiction. How do you find out that your child is addicted to internet, to Facebook, to Twitter, to Snapchat, and one of them is rising amount of time spent on the internet. If your child, according to the Communications Authority, spent a lot of time with their mobile phones on the internet, then that's an alarm that that child could be addicted to use of internet. Then time management problems, they can never manage their times well, problems in school, and then health problems such as lack of sleep are some of the items that we will be discussing in depth with our guests. Remember, this is a document, and of course, my director putting me some prevention online addiction. How do you prevent this? Do not turn on the computer without a specific purpose. Set internet access time through a family discussion. Make a habit of keeping a long time and use of the computer or mobile. Spend more time on outdoor activities and other hobbies instead of focusing on the internet. Then I want us to have a look at the last page in case you find out there's someone, what to do when you realize or you encounter an online abuser. If, for example, you are on your Facebook, using your Facebook, and then you realize or you suspect that this person who is interacting with me or sent me a friend request might be an abuser, then you will be requested to report through this contacts website. We have www.ke.cirt.go.ke or email, send the email to incidents@ke@cirt.go.ke or call the numbers as displayed right on the screen. So this is the guideline by the Communications Authority that should be used or is important to parents and guardians to just help protect children from online abusers. That is what we are discussing tonight. Of course, feel free to just send in your comments and your questions. We have our team of experts who will be responding to them at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. The hashtag to use for tonight is KBC Family Matters KBC. I beg your pardon. I will be joining our guests just in a moment. Do stay tuned. We are joining you in a moment. And welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in to Family Matters this night. Once again, allow me welcome our guests tonight. And at the far end, we have Angela. And Angela Katua is a life transformation coach. The next to Angela is Lydia Matu, who is a parent and also a teacher. And then we have Richard Muthua, who is next, head cloud and business consulting at Internet Solutions. And then finally, we have Elmad Regan, who is a counseling psychologist. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you. Asante.
Thank you. Yes, and maybe I could start with you, Lydia. You are a parent and a teacher. Maybe you can tell us your family setup. Are you raising teens? Are you raising, what group of people are you raising? And what, if they are not teens or they are teens, what do you think is an appropriate or ideal age to introduce internet access to young people?
Thank you so much. I am a mother of teens, and some of them are even older than that. Parenting is not an easy game for all of us, but most important, it's important to understand your child from the early ages. It's important to monitor the human growth and development of the learner, or the child for that matter. And children behave differently depending on the exposure, depending on the parents who are bringing them up, and of course the church or the morals and values that are instilled in them from down there. Remember, as we talk about children, we are talking about people who are born as empty slates, but they come and observe information from us through possibly mentorship, through coaching. They can even look at role modeling, because they also look at who can give me the best values. So children, depending on how you bring them up, can be exposed to internet or to information using the technology that you're talking about as early as possible, but it's important at the same time to monitor what you're giving them. Remember, you are the mentor, so you should guide them on what to take and what not to take. If you leave them on their own, then they will use what we call the discovery method, And they're able to expose to any limit, and part of it may not be really necessary for them at that particular age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and Angela, allow me to ask you, because you are life transformation coach. As Lydia is saying, when children are born, they know nothing. There's no information that is accessible to these children. So let me use this word. I know you will say there's no one to blame, but what exactly happens? There's usually a blame game. It's they've learned this when they've gone to school, it's at home, you know. What exactly happens? Is it parents who should be responsible? Is it the first information that they get in touch with? What exactly happens? Or is it because children are different? All these answers parents are asking out there.
Usually what happens is that, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And nowadays the village has, the world has become a global village. So the child is being raised by a village, by the number of people that the child gets into contact with. And it's not just the parent. We cannot just blame the parent or just the teachers. It is the society. It is the whole society in general. We cannot say that whatever the parent is contributing to the child is what the outcome of the child will be. Now, here is where the parent comes in to protect the child and guide the child in the right direction, so that now whatever he picks out there that is not healthy, then they are able to transform it into a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Elmad, Angela is talking about it's the village, and now the world is a global village, you know. So how do we, because, and then she's talking about the society, which is now a global village, which of course includes the internet, you know. So what are some of the issues that should be, what exactly is wrong? Because I know internet, when used well, it can be really beneficial. Yeah. So what are some of these issues, global village, that Angela is talking about that has negatively impacted on the life of a child?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to use this catchphrase that the devil is in the details. It's with how you do it that the problem is, because by and large, the internet, as much as we decry its negative effects, it equally has very, very important and poignant, advantages that we enjoy today. And so having said that, the how is the problem, because you see, as parents, as caregivers, as neighbors, as the whole society, there's a part we play. And this comes in with the method that we employ to see that our children or our young ones go through this craze successfully without much hassle. Because there is this kind of parent, for example, or caregiver, who will use the restrictive method of parenting in matters digital parenting. That means that they will practice a lot of restraint with the child, that I've said you shouldn't visit the site and that's it, and don't go for it. But are we really helping the situation? Because with this kind of method, it's a matter of I've said it and that's it and it's final. The second method is the one that employs some sort of inclusion, that you can go up to this extent, but to this extent, you can't cross the border. Is it really helping the situation? To some extent, yes. To some extent, no. And then there's the last bit, which now involves co-viewing. That means you are there with the child as they watch whatever they're watching or whatever they are accessing. And so it trickles down to you understanding as the parent or the caregiver which method then, therefore, is the best. It reminds me of the story of this king who bought parrots, 2 pairs, and for some reason, one could not fly from the branch that it was on. And they tried everything, but nothing could happen. And so a wise man was called, and all he had to do was chop down that branch, and the parrot was up again and flying. And so what was the reason? The method that was employed by, giving this parrot this kind of environment that was just limiting it. And so the moment you start breaking these bonds of limitations that we only know of this method, will be but mark timing and not moving forward.
Yeah. And Richard, you offer IT solutions. Honestly, I know there are so many negative impacts being talked about out there. Even some of my colleagues saying they will never introduce their kids to to internet until they are maybe 16 years and above. What are some of the solutions are you maybe offering when you visit a family, you giving them some internet connections? What do you think? Do you think children should also have access to this? Because I know there is home Wi-Fi right now. How can that be regulated?
So, I think number one is that we cannot prevent anyone from having access to the internet. It's a right. a lot of things right now are happening through the internet, and there are a lot of things now you cannot do without the internet, and these are all needs. So just like anything that would be provided in the market, the internet has controls. The question is, do we know where those controls are, and do we know how to use them? So there are a lot of ways you can give children or anybody access to the internet and still control what they're accessing and still be able to have the outcome, because ultimately you need to get the benefit of why you're getting to the internet. And one of the biggest mistakes I think most people do is they say, I can control what my child is accessing. But it's not every time you're with the child. Right now, probably all our children are not with us.
Yeah.
So the important thing is to train that child and make sure that they understand the wrong and the right things to do. They understand the benefits of the internet, and they understand what they stand to gain by using the internet, and the dangers that are there on the internet also. So in terms of at what point should we give access to the internet to the children, it's when you believe as a parent that your child is able to decipher and make out the difference between good and bad, and that you're able to train this child that when you're not there, they don't need to depend on you for them to know this is not good, this is good. They can decide on their own. So capacity building within the children, which starts from capacity building within the society.
Yeah.
Yes.
Angela, do you agree with Richard, because he's talking about training, capacity building with a child when you feel that the child can now make decisions on what is right and wrong? You know, do you agree, or would you say there is a specific age, you know, when my child is 10 years? Because some parents are watching and they want to see what experts are saying in regard to at what age would you introduce internet access to your child?
I think what I would advocate for is for us parents to know our children, to learn what they like, what they at what age they are supposed to be able to maybe be in a certain behavior and be able to even control it. And we need to also instill behavior in our children so that we know that even when we are not around, we know that they're not going to go into things that are not going to be healthy for them. So I wouldn't say that there's a certain age, an exact age, because internet is wide. For example, you'll find a 3-year-old who is using internet in playing games. Then you have to know that you have to control this child not to go to other things that are not good for their age. So it's about you now being in charge of this child and knowing the stage that this child is at, because these children will learn by seeing and by maybe touching, by learning what they see, they read. So we have to control and to just make sure that we train them.
Yeah. We
are there to educate them. We are there to even build trust with them. Because if they don't trust us and they don't even see us as the best example, because many parents nowadays, they go home and they're always with their phones.
Yeah.
When a child sees that they're also learning that it's okay to keep your phone all the time, even when they're, maybe some even stop prayers to pick a phone call,
yeah,
or to just maybe respond to something on the internet. But now, because we know that children are learning by seeing, we have, or maybe by watching us, we have to be the ones in control,
yeah,
depending on the age that they're at.
All right.
Yeah.
And Lydia, do you agree with what they're saying? Because would you also allow a 3-year-old or 5-year-old to access internet as long as they are able to, to differentiate the good and to make their own decisions? Or should I just ask, at what age should you not allow your children to access internet, so that at least we have some, some limit, at least from 10? Give us a number, at least from,
I may not give a number,
yeah,
but I want to look at internet as a form of learning,
yeah,
and look at learning as a process that starts from when you are born all through. And I want to imagine that learning does not only take place at home. Learning takes place everywhere in the society. She has just mentioned that the world is now a very small village for all of us. And therefore, there is need for all of us to become responsible, whether it is at home, at the places of work, or in school, in the church, even within the village where we live, so that learners or children are not exposed, even if that internet is going to be given, let's control for them what is necessary at that age, because different ages will require different access of information that is relevant to that particular age. So I would wish to say that all of us should take responsibility. It's not a matter, you parent, take your responsibility. Let the preacher in the church take responsibility. Let the teacher in the school take responsibility. And let the society also take responsibility. She has said a very important information. Children don't only belong to their parents. They actually belong to the society. It is us who are failing our children by not giving them the right role modeling that they require, by not giving them the assistance to be able to observe what is necessary, because when we behave in a manner that is not palatable or that is not acceptable in the society, that is defiant, of course the learners will learn, or the children will learn the same. So it is us, the society, to change so that we accommodate the children and mold them in a manner that we feel they are achieving the very best that we want in our society.
Yeah. And Richard, allow me to ask you, there are parents out there who've already opened social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, for their young ones when they are newborn. And then there is the issue of identity fraud. You know, do we have some positive impact or positive reasons for that? Do we have more negatives than positives? Is it okay for, if for example you have a newborn and you feel like they need to have an Instagram page or a Facebook page, is it okay?
So I don't believe it's okay.
Yeah.
So the reason is, if I cannot do it myself, then most likely I don't need it. And if I cannot do it myself, it means I cannot realize the benefits. So if I'm a parent and I'm going to open up a Facebook page, for example, for my 3-year-old, there are a lot of questions that I would ask and say, what is he going to benefit from this? And what are the dangers? And most likely the answer to the benefits would be negative. There will be no benefit at all. So I do not believe there is a reason really to get children onto social media when they are not able to do it themselves. Now, if you have already done that as a parent, and maybe you're finding it hard to understand why is it wrong for me to have my daughter or my son on the social media, there are ways that you can control. As I said, everything has controls. So you can use security solutions to decide who sees this page, for example, on social media. You can decide at what time this page is viewed, and you can also monitor to see who's looking at this page and what information are they digging for. So technology has really evolved currently, and as much as we can say it has its negatives, there's a very slim line between the positives and the negatives. So you have to really know what you're doing for you to understand the little benefits that come out of technology.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, there are controls for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And Regan, let me ask you, why are we not, when we have a look at what is happening right now, how the youth are misusing the internet and the kind of stories that are out there, why are we not reaping from the advantages that come with the use of the internet? Why are we getting so much negativity? Let me put this question like this. Our young people, what exactly is the problem? What can be done to just ensure our young people really concentrate on the positives of the internet and not really on the negatives that come with the internet? For example, cyberbullying, you know, identity fraud. They don't engage themselves in all those. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So there are a number of reasons that contribute to young people, as you've mentioned, you know, really dwelling much on the negatives as opposed to the positives. And the reason for this is because human beings have this innate feeling to, you know, want to belong together in a circle. So that if anything happens, naturally, your instinct will tell you, I think I should gossip, quote unquote, or share with my friends so that they are aware, so that they know. But in the real sense, we even forget that we should be stopping, taking a step back and saying, hey, what I'm about to share, about to post, how is it going to benefit me and the other person as well? Because that's where we lose the point. And the moment we lose the mark, it becomes very difficult to retrace back. So it therefore calls for everyone to join the bandwagon and understand that before sharing anything that will have negative effects to the next person, one, it calls for asking, is it true? Because as you've mentioned, most people share for the sake of just sharing, because they want more views, they want more likes, they want more followers, and so on and so forth. But is it true? Number two, is it helpful? How is it going to benefit me as the one who's sharing it, and the other person as well? Yeah. Then thirdly, is it inspiring? Is it going to bring something of substance to the table? Because unless and until we understand these sparks, it's going to be difficult, and we're still going to keep on, dwelling on the negativities. Saying that if I share this, it's okay. If I do this, it's okay. But in the real sense, there's that disconnect. And as much as we're human beings, we have that curiosity and we want that, explorative kind of experience. It's good to take a step back and understand: is it true? Is it helpful? Is it going to inspire somebody? Is it kind? And all these questions. The moment they're brought on the table, then we'll start seeing sort of like a decrease in the kind of sharings that happen on a daily basis.
Yeah. And Angela, just in case it happens, just in case a child decides to use the internet the wrong way, sharing this harmful information that Regan is talking about, as a parent, what do you do? Because of course, when something bad is shared out there, then people will come out and start castigating either the parent, the teacher. There are always blame games, being thrown from this side to the other. But what should a parent do when they find out that their child are really not using internet in the right way?
I think just like in the olden days when we used to do wrong and we were punished, we need to learn that we have to learn to punish our children. And punishing doesn't mean that you're hurting them, you're correcting. You have to have ways of correcting these children. And also, it's good also for you to be informed of what it is that is in the internet that they are doing. And when you're informed, it means that you also have a way of controlling it, because you cannot control or discipline on something that you don't know. So you have to take the initiative to inform yourself, so that the child doesn't just is not always ahead of you, And we need to know that it's not safe. It's not really safe that we leave the children to use the internet uncontrolled. We have to have those control measures and just educate them on the wrongs and what is wrong, just like normal behavior. Because internet has all these harmful things. There's sexual immorality in the internet, just like in the normal life where there's no internet. So we have to take charge and know that if a child does wrong knowingly, we have to punish. If they didn't know, then we have to correct and we have to show them the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me stay with you. How do you as a parent find out, without having to find out from peers or even from social media, and when something has escalated, are there some signs that you could monitor from your child that, my child is behaving this way? Maybe is there a way you can find out as a parent that your child is misusing the internet even before you could hear it from other people outside, or you could see what they have posted?
If you're close to your child, you will know. You will know when their behavior is changing. Their moods change, their behaviors change, the way they relate to you and even their friends, even comments from the teachers, you will know. So you need to take the initiative to just stay close to your child, because if you're not close to your child, then the world will teach them, because as I said, a child is brought up by a village which has now become global, and we don't know who out there has contact with this child. So we need to just stay close to our children and know them, and try to bring them very close, and just know that they can trust us. Yeah, we need to make them know that we are their best friends first. Yeah, not just parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before I talk to you, Lydia, allow me to ask Regan this question. Regan, is it okay, because we want to talk about children in school, is it okay to allow kids, let's imagine you've been able to identify that my child is able to make decisions, is able to choose what is right or wrong. Do you allow your child to go to school with a cell phone or a mobile phone or a gadget? Yeah.
Okay, so with that, the issue of allowing cell phones in schools, again, that would depend with the school or with the situation. But ideally, the question will be, why do you want them to go to school with a phone? And number two, how are they going to benefit when they carry that phone to school? I'm trying to imagine or assume that maybe, just maybe, the reason why they carry a cell phone to school is as of maybe a requirement by the teacher, maybe, which is very unlikely. I think maybe 1 out of 100% or something of the sort. But until you get to sit the child down and make them understand that you have this time to study or to go to school and do your classwork. When you come home, there is this time stipulated, just like my colleagues earlier mentioned, that this time is allocated for your, your internet, your friends, and all that. But ideally, by and large, carrying a cell phone to school would ideally distract this learner from achieving whatever they want to achieve.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding, unless it's a requirement by the school, and it has to be clearly stipulated that on this date of this term, of this week, of this month, will require you to come with this or that, which again seems a bit absurd. But anyway, all the same, bottom line, if it doesn't going to, not going to benefit the child in any way, no need. Let them use it at home.
We were never allowed to carry gadgets. But Lydia, you can tell us, do we have such cases where our children are coming to school with the gadgets? Do we have maybe some schools that allow, students and pupils to come to school with the gadgets? And what are some of the also challenges that you face as teachers in school? We have cases of children who are misusing the internet. Is it extended to schools as well?
Normally, in any given school, because we have what we call customized rules in any given school, but what I believe in is that schools cannot allow learners to come with cell phones. One, it is a distractor towards learning. And number two, they are also exposing them to theft. And number three, they will now start looking for other threats to make use of that cell phone together. So it may not be of really good use. The exposure of learners towards internet is not only bound to a situation of a given school. I want to imagine there is a combination of things that are there. And one of them is, of course, the set rules in a home. Every home should have its own family norms. What are the norms in your home? And do you abide to them? The parent is the first teacher. What did you start telling your children about life? Are you a role model in that home yourself? Because when you bring me the child in school, I'll first of all look at what we call an entry behavior. An entry behavior is what behavior has been acquired from home that is being brought to school. It can affect the child either positively or negatively. So we as teachers may not necessarily require phones because it is not part of what we are using to teach. And in any case, the schools have laboratories, ICT laboratories, and we can use the facilities that we have there within our age and controlled to give the content that we want the learners to get for that particular time. So I want to imagine why learners are going astray. The society has a role to play to rectify that. The family norms must be applied in every given home. And learners should be made accountable to whatever they do in a given day. And when we talk about punishment to collect any error, let the learner understand, why have you committed this? We had talked about it. Don't you think then you need to be punished to put you on the right way, to remind you of the family norms that must be adhered to? When they come to school again, we have the school rules and regulations that they must also abide to. But remember, between home and school, they move, some of them walk, others are driven by matatus, and there's an exposure there. So when your learners reach home, get to know the history. Friendship is what counts. And it is true, true friendship between a child and the parent. And this friendship should be shared in a manner that confidentiality is maintained, so that the child will be happy when telling you of the challenges that child is facing, and you also become somebody who is going to give a solution towards the same.
Yeah.
If I keep telling you my problems and you're not giving me solutions, I'll look for solutions elsewhere, and that is where they go wrong. So let us also, the parents also should not be extremely busy that they don't get time for their children. It is equally important also to manage your time properly at home and to get time for your children, because you are the first parent. If this one misses again, as much as we want to bring an all-outed child, it may not be very easy. So it is a collective responsibility for all of us.
And Regan will tell us what are some of the conversations that parents and guardians should be having with their children. But just before that, Richard, there is this innocent child who is just using their gadgets, but we have some online crimes like, let's say, some are kidnapped. They are kidnapping, identity, fraud. As a parent, how do you, or even others get in touch with children to just introduce them to some criminal activities? And we've had such cases. So how, as a parent, how do you protect your child who is using their gadget well from such harmful online crimes?
Okay.
Yeah.
So from a technology perspective,
Yeah.
there's something we call device management. So anything that connects to the internet will have a way to control how much it accesses on the internet, what it accesses, what time it accesses, and you even have control, for example, to the level of deciding at this time, this person is not going to the internet. And if this person goes to this specific website, I can get to them and send them a message and just tell them, get out of that website, or probably just disable that website completely.
Yeah.
So from a technology perspective, we can use technology to control that. And in your house, when you buy internet, because all houses these days are connected, there are solutions where remotely you can decide between 1 and 2 there is access to the internet. So let's say, for example, you've had to travel without having to go back home, where you can manually control the internet access with your kids. We provide solutions where you can decide, even if you're in Europe and this service is in your house in Kenya, you can disable that service, or you can filter out to decide this internet service is only going to these specific sites, and anything that looks like the rules you define will be blocked automatically.
Oh, really?
So I would advise parents and people who are using technology, especially with the younger ones, to talk to technology service providers, just have a conversation with them around how can we make ourselves secure, because that is what the technology service providers do every day.
Yeah.
That is what they survive on. The other question around kids getting access to the internet and whether or not they should.
And just before you answer that one,
Yes.
you've mentioned that a parent is able to control what sites. You mean a parent with the internet solutions, a parent is able to prevent, and control the sites that a child is visiting and actually block them from visiting them bad sites and from interacting with the wrong people.
That's very correct.
Wow.
We can provide these solutions. And the other one I spoke about is when people buy internet at home, you have it full time. But we have solutions that you can decide that the internet is only available at this time, and you will only pay for that. So your child doesn't need to know that you have disconnected. They will only realize they cannot go to the internet, and when you're home, they can get access to the internet because you'll be there to control. The subject about introducing the kids to technology, again, I will go back to the controls. You can give your kids cell phones, but you can build a profile that the phone can only call and receive. And better even, it can only receive numbers that you list and can only call numbers that you list. So you can give technology, because everybody needs technology. We are learning technology. I mean, the better you are in technology, the more marketable you will be in anything that you're doing today. So out of the media, you will see other conversations like the leaders in technology in the Silicon Valley, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, who had Microsoft and Apple respectively, denied their children access to technology. They never played PlayStation games. They never used phones, as much as their dads own these companies that make phones and computers. The reason for that is because they understand what exactly access to these things can do. They have the information. So for me, I would go back to the point again, we need to make sure that we are aware as parents. We need to talk to people who understand these things. I believe there are a lot of readings you can do as a parent to understand what technology brings, what you can do with technology. You can also attend training sessions. You can also attend open sessions by technology service providers. Some of the things that we offer also as internet solutions is to train people, to train the citizenry to understand this is what technology can do, this is what you shouldn't do with technology, and if you do these things with technology, these are the benefits that you stand to gain.
Right.
So I would urge that everybody, because now you cannot select, everybody has to use technology, needs to make themselves aware, because as a parent, if you're not aware, you will have a child who's miles ahead of you, and it will be very hard for you to control them. Even when you get to know what they're doing, they will find ways to hide. Again, the technology world is very abstract, so enough times people can get impersonated, for example. So I could impersonate your child and do really serious crimes with your child's identity. And the problem with that is it will be very hard for you to prove that it's not your child, because everything will be theirs. It will be their name, it will be details of their device, whatever they were using. It will be their email addresses that are sending out emails if I need to send email. It will be their numbers that will generate the text messages if I need to send out text messages. So even if you're going to get this child out of this, the journey to get this child out of this will be very traumatic. So it is easier for you to deal with the fact that your child is not happy with you because you're controlling technology than having to get this child through this journey of removing them from this pitfall that they will have fallen into.
Right. Well said. Time is not on our side, but Regan, maybe you can just give parents out there a few tips on what are some of the conversations they should be having with their children just before they introduce them to, or they allow them to access internet. Yeah.
Well, that will take me back to the types of parenting that we have, but all the same, maybe in a nutshell, what we need to do as parents or caregivers is to be friends with our children. Let us not be this kind of figures that they see, they'll coil away or they'll come up with excuses to justify whatever they're doing. So ideally, be a star to your kid, be a star to your child, be a star to your teenager, be a star to even your neighbor's kid. And by this I mean, whenever you want to speak with them, stop first. Identify that this is the problem. We need to stop. Let's come to table. Let's understand that this is where the rain started beating us. Then after that, look at how much time have we spent, engaging in unmeaningful internet use, for example. Because the moment they realize that I've wasted so much time doing this, well, I should have invested time doing something different, then they'd start to understand that, then I could do more with whatever time I have. Then 3, let them equally understand what action points that they're going to take therefore forward, so that they have more meaningful internet use, so to speak, so that at the end of the day they make more informed decisions by themselves, of course by you guiding, so that they also own up the process and understand. Because as Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, even what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So the moment you make them feel that this is a problem that needs to be handled or tackled together, whether you're a parent, an uncle, a relative, whoever, but let them own up the problem so that they become more responsible and mature in terms of internet use, then I think we'll be home and dry.
All right. Yeah. And Angela, you could also tell us the monitoring after you've had a conversation with your children, as Regan is saying, and you've introduced them to internet. Now, is it okay as a parent to keep on monitoring them, reviewing what exactly they are doing, or how do you go about it? Do you just, because now you've spoken with them, do you just allow them to use the internet as they wish, or how do you monitor the internet used by your child as a parent?
Children, as they keep on growing and as they keep on learning, whatever they're learning, they keep on discovering new things. So we have to keep on nurturing them, mentoring them. We don't just let them use the internet anyhow because we've spoken to them. No, we keep on mentoring and we keep on following up on what they are doing. And it's good to have a check on your children every day, every single day, and see what they have done with whatever it is that they were doing. And because when you're keeping track on every day, then you'll know when there's a change. You'll know when they've done something that wasn't right. But if you're doing it, maybe you're checking them maybe in a week's time or after some time, it may not be easy to keep track of them. Yeah. So it's good to always have that relationship with them, and you're going to teach them to be responsible also by doing that, because they know that they're being checked and they are being controlled. So we have to continue checking them every other time. It's not just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Because parenting is a process, and as they grow, they keep on developing new habits, they even keep on learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
once there is a change, is it okay as a parent to disallow them from accessing the social media? Once you realize they are changing in the negative, they're going in the wrong direction.
It could be one way of punishing them, because you can take the internet away for some time. You don't have to. It's not a right. It's not like it's a basic need, you know. So they have to know that if I don't do the right thing, then I will face consequences. So if they do not do the right thing, then you pull it out for some time and probably bring it back, and the next time they are going to be responsible with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lydia, most parents keep on saying that my child learned 1, 2, 3, and 4 when they went to school. When there's always that blame game, and then teachers at the same time saying parents are not, you know, staying with they're not making time for their children. Is it true that some children learn some of these habits in school and vice versa, and how can that be addressed?
Behavior can be learned anywhere.
Yeah.
And blame game, you know, that is a way of justifying that you are not responsible. But the best thing is the moment you see a defiant child, whether in school or at home, correction measures must be taken there and then. There is no need of blaming anybody, because in the course of schooling, they interact with so many other learners from other environments. And they can actually, you know, we say that behavior you can observe a behavior and acquire it. So there is nobody that should be made responsible for that. It is the high time now that people joined hands and agreed to face the problem together, because it is already there in our society, and we are all responsible, because we are the people who are supposed to help those learners or the children to acquire the correct behavior through even helping them to get the correct life skills in the society, to cope with the societal needs. Because the society, of course, has its needs. But how do they cope? They need to have those skills. Skills can be taught in school. They can also be taught at home. They are also taught in church, because churches or mosques or even temples talk about morals and values. So it's about instilling the correct values to the children. And everybody should take responsibility for that. So when parents blame teachers, it's only that they want to get out of it. When teachers blame parents, it's that they also want to get out of it. The best thing would be, let's come together, let's solve the problem together. It is our problem.
All right, let's come together, let's solve the problem together. And Richard, Rose is my director, she's on my neck, she wants me to wind up. But let me finish with you. In a few seconds, is it okay to allow or to use home Wi-Fi? Would you advise, because some parents out there, they are saying, we cannot allow home Wi-Fi because we do not want our children to have the leeway to use internet anyhow. Would you say from your internet background that yes, you can allow home Wi-Fi, but at the same time monitor what the children are doing? Or should we as parents do away with the home Wi-Fi?
So yes, you can allow home Wi-Fi and control everything that happens in there. Do you need to have Wi-Fi at home or not? That's a decision that a parent needs to make based on what you need to do without that Wi-Fi. But generally, you should not deny your children or yourselves the good things that technology come with just because of the negatives, because as technologists, we can control technology because we can decide what goes in, what goes out, and how that happens. So put in controls, get your Wi-Fi in, do not let the negatives basically deny you the positives that technology comes with, because there are a lot. They're definitely more than the negatives.
Okay, and
Yes.
Regan, Richard, Lydia, and Angela, thank you so much for making time for us. It's a conversation, we need to have it once again. But
Thank
time
you.
would not allow us to
Thank
proceed.
you.
But thank you so much. That was so resourceful.
Thank you
We
very
do
much.
appreciate. And Kennedy Jr., you're saying there is no appropriate time for kids to use a phone. These devices might be a source of immoral exposure, such as adult and content, just to mention, hence leading to early immorality. All right, and the experts said, as you're saying, there is no appropriate time. We just need to have a conversation with your child. When they are ready to use internet, then you can allow them access it. Thank you so much for those who followed this conversation. It has been a great pleasure having you. Keep us company. I'm Purity Museo. Good night and God bless.